What's up, everyone? Welcome to season 2 of Between Us FOOS podcast. We're back and excited for the new year, new topics, new guests, and new oos. If you haven't already, go and check out our amazing season 1 of Between Us FOOS if you want to get to know who we are and what we're about. We cover many topics as it relates to dance, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about dance insecurities. Once again, friends, my name is Donita. I'm here today with none other than my host mates Kevin and Kim.
Hey.
And Between Us FOOS, let's talk about it. Insert jingle. So, insecurity means lack of confidence, uncertainty, or anxiety about oneself. I believe everybody on planet Earth deals with a little bit about insecurity. Whether you're a dancer, whether you're a doctor, a teacher, real estate agent, whatever. It's pretty normal to have insecurities, right? So what causes insecurity can generally be put in 3 wide buckets. Number 1 is recent failure. 2 is social anxiety. And 3, perfectionism. So Kevin and Kim, let's talk about what is our biggest insecurity as it relates to dance, and maybe explore that a little bit if possible. And out of the 3 causes I just mentioned, which one do you think is the main cause?
Okay. So I think so my biggest insecurity in terms of dance is actually just like my body in general. I think it comes like I just don't like the shape of my body, interestingly enough. And so dance is about pictures and shapes and things like that. So it's really distracting sometimes to me, like to have to, when I'm posing, to have to suck in, like, you know what I mean? Or like suck in every time I'm walking across the studio during practice, or like wear a bunch of baggy clothes so that no one can see how lanky my arms are and things like that. So what were the 3? Is it perfectionism?
Perfectionism, recent failure, or social anxiety.
It's probably the second one, or the social anxiety part. And I mean, nowadays with fit life, #fit life, and all that stuff, which I'm actually weirdly trying to get into, but like I feel like that has a lot to do with just kind of the way that I feel about my body and the way that I use it to move. It's just I want to get rid of that, and I want to be able to I maybe have a better relationship with my body in terms of dance. So that's kind of my biggest insecurity right now.
Okay.
For me, feeling because with my dance journey, it hasn't been always like a consistent as I feel like it should have been. Starting since high school, I say looking at and comparing myself with other of my peers who have danced for so long. I feel like whenever I get back into the dance studio, get into a dance class, I'm always like, oh man, like not only is it me trying to succeed in whatever the choreography is, but as well as like I can't help but like peer over and like look over to the others that I've danced with and just say, oh my gosh, they're really killing it. What am I doing with myself right now, you know? And it's like I feel like we're our biggest critic, you know? And so when I think about the 3, what did you say? Failure,
perfectionism,
and social anxiety. I feel like, there's a little sense of like, not only comparing myself to other dancers and other of my peers, but as well as like thinking to myself like, oh man, it's the biggest letdown for me to think that like, if I don't get through this, like I'm letting myself down the most. So I would say failure is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's maybe a bit like a mix of all 3, if anything. For me, I would probably have to agree with Kevin. My biggest insecurity, I think there's another one has come up that's more close to you, but all my life since I've started dance, and even back just in personally, you know what I mean, outside of dance, it's always about the self-esteem and lack of confidence in what I look like, you know what I mean, or how I look like, you know. And where does that come from? You know, in preparation for this, I kind of thought about like, you know, social anxiety. The cause of it is when someone tells you something when you were younger, like in your childhood, you know, whether like, oh, you're not good at math, or like, you know, and then that kind of like that's where the belief cycle starts forming. So I feel like it's kind of like in a Filipino cultural community. Like I felt like in that culture, it's always looked down upon, you know what I mean? And maybe not so much nowadays because we're trying to change that, but you know, in the Philippines and like maybe in Asian countries in general, like there's always the pursuit of looking a certain way, you know what I mean? So I felt like it was already embedded in me while I was young to kind of like look a certain way, and you know, and of course that's gonna apply to dance because it's such a visual thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how can you not like notice that, you know what I'm saying? So that's probably it. And then recently, same thing with Kim, like I think recent failure and like maybe the expectations I've set on myself and comparing yourself, and kind of like your inner critic is talking to you like, you know, how could you take this long of a break? You know what I mean? Like, why didn't you take all these classes, you know, all these stuff. And then when you get back in, the first class is always the hardest, you know what I mean? Because it's like all that culmination of that period of time you weren't dancing, kind of just like you have that voice in your head and, you know, kind of trying to get past that and stuff. So yeah, weirdly, it's both of your guys's
Combined.
yeah, combined. So, you know, and what ways, you know, do you guys counter that? It's something I think we struggle through all the time and like repeatedly, right? And I think it might lessen, but I think unless we really take a deeper look and really conquer it, like I think it's gonna happen every day. There's new challenges every day. So what are some ways you guys have, you know, done to kind of get past that, your insecurity?
Yeah. I mean, kind of like I did talk about it though, like dressing a little bit I guess looser overall, but what's interesting is that even that in a sense has been called out on by me. They're like, how come you wear the same sweater and sweats and long sleeve all the time? And it's like, well, first of all, I don't have that many clothes to dance in. Second of all, do I need to buy new clothes? Why are you worried about what I'm wearing? And third, like, I don't know, I feel comfortable in it. So like if I feel the most confident in that, I mean, it's more hiding, but I guess when I'm dancing, if I feel confident in it and I'm able to give my best in those types of clothing, like, why not? You know, like that's kind of my biggest, I guess, mechanism to cope with my body issues overall. Because even something as simple as like, Kevin, you need new shoes. I'm like, okay, I know, but like, chill. Like, you know, I'm just gonna do me, you know, and like, you know, I guess I try to block it out a little bit and just understand why I do the things I do and just kind of stick to that reasoning, you know.
When I think about being in dance classes and me starting to be self-critical and like looking at other people, I try to take a deep breath and like walk away for a little bit, you know, when we have water breaks and all that, and just say, okay, it's fine, you're cool, right? And then because I feel like the more that you think about your mistakes and thinking about other people, you kind of dial into that, and then it just continues to go downhill. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's always been, okay, let's just get through this and then focus on something that you've been absolutely killing on, and then just say, dude, I look dope. Ruin that. And so with that, like, I feel like the frustration of just like looking at other people and them succeeding, it's like I need to focus on myself and not worry so much, and tell myself, you know what, you're dope, you're cool, you're on a different timeline than any other people. And for what it's worth, in the present, just focus on the present. And once you get through this, the next class is going to be a lot easier, and just set yourself a goal. So the next class, you come a little bit prepared into what like I wanted to work on. Like, okay, maybe this was my failure at this class. You know, next class, I'm just going to worry about myself and not think as much. And I know it's harder to kind of take that advice when you're in that position, but yeah, just taking a deep breath and just letting yourself just let it go. You know, let it go.
I know. Like I noticed that like like a lot of our insecurities stemmed from like other people or our relationships to other people. But when we started focusing on ourselves, that's like kind of when that's basically how we both coped with it, which is that's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah. For me, of course, both I've tried. I think the biggest one that has made the biggest impact for me is really just, and this is more of a, not like this is like a tangible thing that people can try, is like kind of like recording yourself, you know. For me, like it's kind of like I've known someone who hates their singing voice, and then the tip was just keep listening to your singing voice, you know what I mean? So same thing as the tip is record yourself, watch yourself, like accept what you're watching, you know what I mean? Like everybody has flaws, everybody has strengths and stuff. So I think that like being on video and just watching yourself kind of makes you be a objective and third party perspective and see like you're not as bad as you think, you know, what you are. So it's kind of like you have to diminish what your fears are by like just doing it, you know what I mean? By just going to the first class or just even watching yourself dance all the time, you know what I mean? Because you like the mirrors, I don't know, sometimes I don't really look at the mirrors. Like I'm always at the back, not because like of course I use the mirrors for dance, but like I don't use it. Sometimes I don't even look at my face. I look at like, you know, like the shapes and stuff. And but to combat that, for me, I just, you know, record myself, like watch it and be like, you know, I killed that. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I look pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. You know? And so the more you do that, the more you take class, the more I take class, the more I record myself, then that lack of confidence starts to lessen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I said, it's never going to go away. I think that until I reach a certain point where I really tackle the root of it, I'll be like, you know what I mean? And that's another tip too, is like, I kind of approach my family about it. Just be like, hey, you know, like we should stop doing that. You know what I mean? Like we have to kind of raise our future nephews and nieces to not about to care about like more things other than the way they look or like what color their skin is or whatever.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah. That was very, very a vulnerable conversation, and I think it's normal. Like I said, I want to normalize it for everybody.
Yeah.
But Kevin, is being tall ever come up as an insecurity?
Yes. Oh my God, being a tall dancer is like a whole nother ballpark, I think, in terms of just your relationship almost to the rest of your team and stuff. I mean, as a director and as a choreographer, just on the baseline, like I'm always thinking about my height in terms of where I am in the picture, or like, am I reaching everyone's levels and things like that. And every time like we hit a level, I'm always one of the ones that called out. It's like, oh, Kevin, like make sure you hit that level. It's like, I know. So like being a tall dancer, I think for me has been such a, I mean, I've grown to like love myself, I guess, in terms of that. I've been like 6 feet since I was like 14 or something. Like I like spurted
How
up.
How tall are you?
6.
You're 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm 6 foot. So like
full disclosure
I know.
to our Spotify
To
listeners.
Spotify listeners. Yeah, but basically I've grown to terms with it, obviously being that height for 15 years now. But I think it definitely has I guess it coming with my self-confidence a little bit. There's a lot of times that I don't utilize it fully, like my full extent and stuff, because something as simple as I'm gonna hit someone, like, you know what I mean, like during class, I haven't taken like a Veen or like a Keone class ever when they come and teach here, because it's like I don't have room, I can't learn, I can't do anything. You know what I mean? So it's like and then I have trouble like adjusting to that once I do have the space. So that's my biggest like thing about being a tall dancer is like, dude, like just the diameter that I need to like dance is crazy, and then just levels in general. So yeah.
Kim, what about being short?
How tall are you, Kim?
Oh man, I'm 4'10".
Oh shoot.
Oh man, being a short dancer. Well, yeah, I would say levels, because I know like when we're on dance team, it'd always be like, you know what, hit levels as far as Kim, and like I'm the point extreme.
You're the reference point.
I'm the reference point, and most of the time, like I'm like looking at everyone else, and like I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh man, I hope I'm not going too short. I wonder if Kevin's like his knees are.
Oh yeah, no, I remember. yeah.
You know,
Dude.
as well as, you know, like I know in the beginning stages of my journey, my consistent criticism was extend, reach, dance bigger, because I always felt like I had this box with me, and I feel like, yeah, maybe it stemmed from like the lack of confidence, because I felt like, okay, well, you know, this looks good. This is the extent of that my body will allow, because that's how I feel. But yeah, being a short dancer, I know most of the time when we're in class as well, people will like look around and say, hey, go to the front. You're tiny. And it's like, no, I want to be in the back. I don't care about that. Like, this is my comfort zone, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know. I think some of the troubles that I think about as well, like when we think about like footage and like trying to see where we're at, always being blocked.
Oh my god! You know, even as a tall dancer, I like someone just happens to align right in front of the camera, and I'm like, how the heck am I still blocked in this in the shot? But I don't know, man. Our heights are like
we're on like the opposite ends.
Yeah, you guys are like, both the extremes, and I'm in the middle. So
I know.
Legit
do you
average.
do you have like? Do you deal with similar things like that? Considering that you're like 5'6", 7.
I'm 5'5", so I'm considered average height, and I don't know. I can't relate because I feel like it doesn't have to do with my height as much of my, I guess, capabilities. Like my constant criticism was like hit stronger. You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with height.
I see.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I think that. Yeah. I'm more curious about like, where do you think that began? Like being a tall dancer. When was the moment someone was like, Kevin, you're too tall? You know what I mean?
Oh my God. I honestly feel like it was in blocking and in making formations, because when you make formations in a dance or like a choreo, like you look at the full picture, and you tend to want to mirror it on both sides. So I'm either mirrored with the only other person on the team that can mirror me. If they're not in the dance, I can't be in the dance unless I'm in the back middle, or it's my dance and I'm in the front middle. So it's like I have 3 particular locations, and then it makes it even more complicated when there's formation changes, because then eventually I might be mirrored with Kim, you know, and it's like, okay, well, I'll hit your level, fine. But even then, like if you think about think about the horse stance that I have to be in to hit her level, like it just doesn't look the same. So I think because dance is so visual, like the shape of your body in order to achieve the same thing is very different for us. Like for me to bring my hand from the left side to the right side, that's a 6-foot pathway, whereas for you it's a 4'10" pathway, right? So like you have to go like 2/3 as fast as me, you know? Like it's like this whole thing.
We've
like
had conversations about this before. When you think about speedy choreography, like
my God,
I bet it's tough for you, Kevin, because of the distance that your body has to travel.
Oh man,
yeah, like
as opposite as Kim, you know.
I know. I took Aggie's class, you know, which she admittedly has called herself short, right? But like, yeah, it was rough, because what I love is that she still utilizes a lot of her like body to like fully extend and stuff, but it just looks different on me because of the differences in our body. And so I'm like, damn, like how do I like match and still get the most out of this? Like, so yeah, I tend to like feel like I look better doing tall people's choreography, because I feel like I look like them, you know? So
very interesting. What about you, Kim? Where do you think, you know, the short thing began?
Began as in
like that insecurity coming up?
I don't know. I mean, like being a part of a dance move, obviously it's pointed out through your directors and saying like, hey, Kim, in comparison to everybody else, you look so tiny. You know, like the hits, they look tiny. Whatever you're doing looks tiny. You need to like be big. And like, how do you be big? You know, are you talking about like you know, physically chest like moving? Like this is as far as it's gonna go, you know? As well as like distance, when you were talking about distance, like travel, like if I'm paired with someone like that, it's like I have to go, it's like the Pomeranian next to like a German Shepherd, like having to move twice as fast. You know, like I can't cover as much distance as he typically would, so you have to kind of like meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to have that conversation between people. Like,
Yeah, whenever I choreograph, I have to teach it to someone shorter. I'm like, how far can you go? Because I can go like, to China.
it's like one big step and you're already in the next room. I'm like, I have to take like maybe 5 steps to do that. So,
Yeah, I know. So oh
Yeah.
man, that must be a struggle.
you're
for
lucky
you.
being average.
I guess so. I'm very privileged, invisible privileged. Like, I mean, I struggle with both. Like, I still get most criticism. I mean, both criticism.
I know.
But yeah, so I actually want to take this moment to hear from our audience. We asked, what is your dance insecurity? And we want to discuss some responses, normalize it, and think of ways how to combat it. That belief cycle that goes through your head. So let me get the first question. There it is. Okay. Let's see.
Taking it to Instagram.
When I'm dancing, I feel like I may look too lanky / skinny. I wear baggy clothes to hide it. This is from o3.exe.
Oh wow, I relate to you here. You man. I like ways to combat that. Like like hiding the clothes is a good way to it's like a short term thing, but I think it's just the relationship that you have with your body. I think it's almost conditioning to be able to use your body correctly, because it's hard to like control your body the further it is away from your core. So it's like doing your drills, making sure that every time you dance that you're dancing as big as possible, because like then it'll be a little bit more normalized for you. So good luck, O3X dot whatever. Yeah. So, good luck to you.
And from Julia.Gregor, facial expressions.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we could all relate to that. No, see, so like that's normal. That's totally normal. And I think what I've been told is like the goofier you look, or the goofier it feels, the better it looks, basically. Because you kind of have to commit to whatever you're expressing. You know what I mean? For me, I have a harder time expressing, I would say, like anger in dances. That's probably because it's the personality I relate to the least, you know what I mean? Versus like joy or like even sometimes like emotional, like sadness. I can do those, but I think like if you look angry or if you try to commit to that feeling, then your facial expression is gonna follow that emotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I mean, beyond emotion, I feel like there's certain like quirks that your face does sometimes. Like for me, my left eyebrow just always goes up. And it just like, that's just my standard, whether it's happy, angry, swag, sassy.
That
like
is
my
the
left
truth.
eyebrow just goes up. So now I'm like, in order to combat that, I'm just like opening my eyes really wide. Just
So
to like
that's your resting dance face.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
That
it's
is your
pretty
resting
hard.
dance
I know,
face.
some people do that like squint too, like that like
I'll do
I'm
it.
cool, like that squint. You know what I mean? Like, but I think you just got to do it confidently. I
Yeah,
can't
you
change
just
it up.
gotta commit to it. And I think maybe if the insecurity is coming from like the lack of knowing how to get there, then maybe ask whoever's asking you to do these facial expressions to like explain like what is the intent of this piece of this move, you know what I'm saying? Then it'll help you kind of visualize where you are in that space and emote it, basically. You know?
Yeah, as a dancer, I feel like you're a performer, so you're an actor to an extent, right? So I did an acting exercise with my team kind of like last summer. I think we did like scenarios like be angry at each other, and then we just like did improv in front of each other. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, if I always feel stupid when I'm trying to look angry. So it's hard, but you just got to keep trying, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. One more. Let's see. Looking awkward. And that is from Sarah Pickler, 98.
Oh, well, I think it's like, I mean, in part, it's like learning a piece that's outside of your
Yeah.
comfort zone, right? You're gonna look awkward, and I think,
Well, go ahead.
yeah, I think it's okay, like, to feel awkward at certain points, because you can only get better as you practice.
Well, maybe
in that zone.
you don't look awkward, but you
That perception.
feel awkward. You know what I'm saying? And maybe both, but I think it stems from feeling awkward first.
I see.
Some people are good at hiding that they feel awkward, you know what I mean? But I think you can't look awkward and not feel awkward. So tackle the feeling first of awkwardness, then you won't look as awkward. But I think, just like Kevin said, like it's a comfort zone thing, and it's like the first time's always the hardest. And everyone has looked awkward at one point or another.
I remember, what is it, when Jillian Myers came through, and I remember there was a specific like move that looked super awkward, and she said, yeah, all of you guys are going to feel awkward, but look, if you commit to it, it's going to look amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that mentality of like, okay, yeah, whatever this choreographer is teaching, maybe it's not fitting well into my body, but if I commit to it and I watch it over again, maybe it's not as awkward as I think of it. Yeah, I feel like it's that self-perception of like, I feel it, thus it must be true. But when you take yourself out of that situation, maybe look at it again, then it's not so.
Yeah, it's I think the first thing we always think about is like, oh, what do other people think I look like? Or think of me, you know, as I do this. And if you just kind of forget that a bit, and then you'll get less nervous, you know. And I think awkwardness can come from that nervousness, you know what I mean? So it's kind of feeling confident too. So whatever way you can add more self-esteem in that moment.
You want to know what's funny is, like, I remember when I used to do Sunday snaps, there was this one particular dancer who used to come to our studio all the time at MNW, and like whenever groups would come through, like whether it be like I need a group of 5, 2, or 1, he would be up front in the middle, like, you know. And I would say like he wasn't like the best dancer, but the confidence that he exuded, like, to me, I was like, okay, you are great, sir. And I remember talking to him afterwards. I was like, man, you know, you're always in the front. Like, how do you know, push yourself to do that? Because I feel like that's such a vulnerable stage. And he was telling me, he was just like, yeah, well, whenever I go into a dance class, what I do is I try to think of the character that the choreographer wants us to kind of be, and the mood to set the tone, and then become that character. So it's not me that's out there, you know? And I was like, oh,
wow.
You know, that's a way. That's a way. It's
like an alter ego.
Yeah, an alter ego. So he was like, yeah, so when I'm up there, I don't feel as nervous because it's not me that's messing up.
It's this character.
It's this character.
No, I believe it. I think the best part, one of the best things about dance is you get to play these other characters. So it's it's not even about you that you're putting out there to the world. It's like this character that you're embodying. Yeah. So that's great. Do you remember his name?
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but now that I think about it, it also relates to actors. You know how actors are seen to be these confident individuals, you know, but there are actors who are very, you know, socially awkward and who don't like being in front of people and talking to people, and you would think that's not the case. Like when I think of Joaquin Phoenix, you know, you would think he's like this confident dude, but in fact he just doesn't like the limelight. He just likes expressing himself.
Oh, I love that.
He does it for himself. He doesn't do it for everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we want to talk about dance insecurities further, but in our next episode, Dance Insecurities Part 2, we wonder, do looks matter in dance? And what are some ways we can do as a community to change the status quo? So stay tuned and find out. Subscribe on our YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and again, check out our season 1 of Between Us FOOS. This has been Donita, Kevin, and Kim, and we'll catch you on the flip side.